Hey, pro nerds, it's me, Iggy, with Project Nerd, and I'm coming to you with another great interview from this year's Dickens Horror Film Festival. Dickens Horror Film Festival, put on by Colorado Festival Productions, take place at the historic Dickens Theater and Restaurant in Longmont. Beautiful venue, newly renovated. We're excited to be getting back in person somewhat this year and hopefully more next year. But somebody who was there last year for their digital festival and now this year has been selected again for his second short film is Luigi Scarpa, and I'm here with him today. Luigi, how are you doing?
I am very happy and honored about this selection at Dickens Horror Fest. Thank you very, very much.
Awesome. Well, I did take a peek at the movie, which we'll get to in a second. But for fans, no, Luigi is in Italy, and we'll do our best, obviously, to speak through English here. Get as much information out of your two awesome short films you've made already. Which last year's selection, of course, as we talked about, was Malum Attorney, which you can see that interview already live on Project Nerd. And then, of course, this year we're talking Sebilum, which has a daughter-mother dynamic and a bit of a play on technology, and I would say maybe even a little bit of health undertones probably there too. So tell me more about Stabilum.
Okay, Sebilum is a film very, very important for me because it is an intimate story. I filmed it in a very, very strong period because in Italy, in that period, was the big pandemic period, and this was very, very difficult because in 1 or 2 days we filmed it in a very big house in Milan, in Italy, with a lot of people, and this was a very big problem because a lot of people of the cast of the production in condition of work very, very hard. But for me, the story was and is very important, even if it is a simple story, but with strong power. Because the inspiration about this story when from my girlfriends, a day she tells me about she was in her kitchen, and after 1 or 2 minutes she listened from the camera, "Mama," and she go to camera and nothing. And about this, from this, I think this story, and I do this film, simple film about an question, elementary question, but after I put in this story a lot of elements, for me important elements, because in this period there is a big attention to
Right.
okay respiration, and all world is attention about this problem, this. And for me in this film I put it as a big element of the story. I don't tell more about it, but it's a very important element of of it in this story. And as Malum Eterni, I like so much these elements, so I tell more, to put real elements in an unreal story, and real elements in a real story. For me, the horror is this, the both elements. I like horror movie, psychological horror film.
Right.
And for this reason, it's very important to see the people about real things, because often reality is more horror than real. And this is a very important for me. Tell to people to reflect about this, about these elements of the reality. And in
Right.
this
Well,
little story, I do it. I
well
did it.
you touched on so much just right now too on it. I think you mentioned I didn't even think about it. Y'all were filming this during a pandemic, and you're talking about respiratory health, as you mentioned, which, as you said, plays into this film. And you're right, the psychological part of it, I think, is the biggest part of this movie. There's a good part of this short film where you can barely see what's even going on the screen, and it's all based on sounds, which then I think made me as an audience member really start to guess what was happening, and it got into my own psyche, right? So I think you did a fantastic job there with that. But then there always the mother daughter dynamic. And kids are horrifying in scary movies. They are just horrifying when you add kids to horror movies, right? So I think that was a nice touch as well. Uh, so it sounds like you drew a lot of inspiration from what was going on, not just in the world, but from your personal life. Tell me a little bit about the technology aspect, because technology also plays a major piece in this short film.
Okay, technology elements is very very important. Even with Malum Eterni, um, I used the professional camera and all elements about the cinematic language. But now with Sibilum, I want to do an upgrade. Okay, so I grow up even in my film. Malum Eterni was my first film. Sibilum is my second short movie, and I in this period just I think a third film. Okay, for the next year, and technology elements are very very important. When I filmed it, and after the first post production phase, okay, I I I told okay, now is a very beautiful video, but now it isn't an horror film. And with all elements about cinematic language, color correction, sound design, and all elements after Sibilum became an horror film because all elements are very very important in this phase. And it wasn't easy this because when you film in location, location is very very important for a film and for an horror film. As example, for example, as cemetery, that location do half film, okay, 50% of the film. But when you film in a common house, in a very normal house, the horror element is very hard to to put in the story. And for this reason, all elements about the story and the technology as a sound design, and color correction, and all are very, very important for the cause. Okay, and I had like to have a lot of people, a lot of friends, but even professionists of cinematic. See that helped me in this operation, and the cinematography was very important. I worked with a cinematography that often work and worked in the past in pellicola with very important people about the cinema, Italian cinema. And this is very important because with Malum Eterni, the first film, cinematography was not so good. I tell I and because I think a director must tell true. Okay, and I know this element in Malum Eterni, but now in Sibilum, I wanted to upgrade this, and for this reason, technology and all elements of technology are very, very, very important.
My next question was going to be, what did you see, grow from leaps and bounds from that first movie to this movie? And it sounds like cinematography is definitely one of them. What else do you think you make major improvements on now that this was your second project?
Okay, cinematography was very important because it hard it's a very hard operation because I like so much in my film no lights, okay, and to do no lights is very very important and difficult in a film because there are a lot of famous films that when there aren't lights, but people see all in a scene. For me, it's no
Right.
good idea because this is very difficult because even for the sensibility, okay, of the film, in the post production, this is a very big problem. But for me, the reality is a very important element in the film, and if there aren't lights, there aren't lights, okay? And it's important after, and even for the cinematography, when on set, I told, okay, now no lights, okay? And to work in this direction was very, very difficult. And for this point, the cinematography was very, very important to work with no lights. A very important things is this. Now, a lot of people look films or even content on a smartphone or screen of this. And when I showed my film at few people to have an opinion, okay, a lot of that said me, oh, but no lights, I don't see it. And I asked, okay, this is a good thing because I um, told this film for the sale, okay, for the cinematography sale, and not for this, okay. This is another things, okay. If there isn't light, there aren't light, and in the sale when the people is on the seat and look big screen and around no light, bam, this is the power of the Sebilum. And they studied for this. Okay.
Well, I think that's big because, as we talked about last year, the Dickens Horror Festival, with so many other film festivals, were all digital. So everybody watched it from home. And although this year it's going to be both digital and theater, there's going to be a possibility for that theater experience too. So there's going to be a group of people. And so I think it sounds like that's exciting to you that there's going to be a group of people in that dark room already. And then that middle act just kind of goes dark, and it's really going to play into them. And for me, as I watched this, I obviously watched it at home by myself, but still had an experience to where you hear all the, you did fantastic with the audio. And so you listen to all these noises as it's dark and your own imagination starts running. And I think you accomplish something pretty scary with that, because then you start to think of the worst things when you're thinking yourself, right? So I just want to say kudos, great job on that. I was pretty impressed with how you handled those dark scenes. I did another big question for you. Obviously, is anytime in horror, there's huge directors, names that are historically there. Where did you grab inspiration from? Is it the Hitchcocks of the world, or is there maybe some Italian horror directors that you can introduce our audience to, or anybody else?
In the cinema, so in the cinema, in the director, okay. I am a young director at my second film, okay. And for me, it's very important to see a lot of works of my colleagues, okay. And very important, I like so much even Quentin Tarantino, Darren Aronofsky. And about horror film, I like so much films as The Others or The Orphanage, okay, because as I told before, I like psychological horror and all these elements that are real. The Others for me is a very powerful film, okay. It isn't a splatter film. There isn't blood, anything, but all happen in the mind of the people, and this is a bam, a very, very big power. And for me, horror is this.
Right. No, that's fantastic. Really interesting to hear. That's a great movie that you're referencing. And you want to talk about messing with your mind. Aronofsky is definitely up there at the top of the list, right? I think we're tight on time. So before we wrap, obviously for those, we're going to release this interview ahead of time. So if you're in the Longmont, Denver area, October 16th, the Dickens Horror Film Festival. If you're not in the area, you can still head on over to Colorado Festival Productions, get the information to be able to access their film festival online. Remember, everybody, as Luigi's kind of mentioned, it's been a tough time this past year and everything for filmmakers, but film festivals and theaters and everything. So do whatever you can, obviously, to support these festivals and independent filmmakers. But beyond October 16th, I guess, Luigi, let us know where. I know I think you have luigiscarpa.com. Is that right? Yep. luigiscarpa.com. Where else can people find more information about you and your projects?
And social media, Instagram, Luigi Creative, and the Facebook page, Luigi Scarpa, and even Sebilum and Malum Eterni movie. There is the page, the official page of the film. But in my website, there are all information.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, we will make sure we point everybody in that direction too. Luigi, you did great. I know you're worried about the difference in language, but I think you did fantastic. I think you also did a great job on the film. So congratulations for your second selection at the Dickens Horror Film Festival. People definitely check it out. It's super short, won't take up much of your time either. So a great little thing to digest. I hope, though, for you, Luigi, that these short films lead to some bigger projects in the future, as I'm sure a huge directing career is in your future. Again, fans, you can check us out over at YouTube. Head over to YouTube, search Project Nerd, or obviously head on over to projectnerd.com. That's project-nerd.com for this interview, our previous interview with Luigi, and dozens of other interviews from not only the Dickens Horror Film Festival, but from all the conventions and film festivals we attend throughout the years. I'm going to sign off, Luigi. We'll say goodbye to the fans here. And again, thank you. But everybody, make sure you go check out Sebilum.